the match.
Hmm. What do you think about
never
that?
Miss plays in chat. I think it should be 4. Brainstorm's bad. Never Misplays in chat is asking for one of us to dumb down Oubliette for you. It's a black Oblivion ring that only hits creatures.
It's
only
fine.
Also exiles as well, which is weird.
I think it's fine. I think that the fact that it adds to your mono black devotion as it removes something. I like that it's doing multiple things in this deck. I don't know if I'd run it in other black decks. Yeah, I think it has a nice home in something like this. It's certainly an option that you could have in teachings, but they just don't run it because it's slow, it's clunky. Might as well run a spell to remove the creature instead. But it has a purpose in this mono black control deck.
Exactly. So it looks like we've got a Witches on turn 2 for Telemokos. Davesea does not have any black mana available to him yet, so he's not able to remove those Witches, but he does have double blue, so that's going to turn on all of the hard counters that are in his deck. Ideally, he wants to catch a 3-drop here and then curve into something on his turn. The Sign in Blood's a pretty tasty counterspell target, though, which he's going to use a counterspell on it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fine.
Looks like Dave does have a copy of his main deck Ghastly Demise in his hand, which is just stone dead.
Yes. The Demise is interesting, though, isn't it? I mean, in this delve deck, very much about filling the yard and setting up the anglers and the 2 of Scavenger. So the Demise does make sense, but it is indeed a dead draw in this matchup.
Yeah. Being able to Thought Scour yourself or Mental Note and then get lots of value off your Demise as a 1-mana Doomblade.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, couldn't it just be Doomblade?
It could just be. Yes, it could just be Doomblade. I think he was trying to be mana efficient. I guess that's the nonsense or his thought process here. I mean, if he finds a Brainstorm, he could brainstorm the Demise on top of the deck and then either shuffle or more likely, I mean, he doesn't have that many shuffle effects. More likely what happens with his brainstorms, right, is he has to like brainstorm into Mental Note or Thought Scour and then get rid of the cards that way.
Yeah, he also can just like brainstorm into Ponder Shuffle is another way to get rid of it.
And maybe that's what we're going to see next turn.
He is going to use a Deprive on that Phyrexian Rager. Again, those cards that just get some amount of value are going to be very good here. Witches aren't all that powerful, but now that there's 2 of them on the battlefield, they can team up with these Disfigures to kill something bigger. So like 1 Witch and a Disfigure kills a Sultai Scavenger now at this point.
Yep. Now, let me ask you something. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the way that Dave is going through these deck manipulation spells. I feel like I would have led with perhaps Brainstorm and then gone for a Ponder. What do you think, Chris? Because there's it's important that he goes about these. He still has the dead ghastly Demise in hand.
I think it's fine doing it the way that he's doing it now. He's basically just looking for an Evolving Wilds to try and shuffle away that Ghastly Demise. And he does have 4 Evolving Wilds in his deck, so it's not like he's looking for a 1 or a 2 of.
True.
Looks like both players just have a bunch of nothing going on, just kind of jockeying for position back and forth, trading resources here and there. At some point, Dave is going to try and resolve a large threat like this Gurmag Angler and then protect it with some number of counterspells if he happens to have any. Let's see what Telemokos can bring to the table here. Chainer's Edict is so good at common in this format. It's pretty insane.
Yeah. Now, how many Ponders did we go through there, Chris?
A whole bunch. 3?
I believe we went through 3 Ponders. And what is still in Dave's hand?
Well, that Brainstorm. And he did have a Deprive for that Chainer's Edict, so he was able to leave this 5/5 on the battlefield. If he can just draw into a couple more counterspells, he could end this game very quickly.
This is true. I mean, maybe I'm being critical of something I don't need to be critical of. There's that Thought Scour to get rid of the Demise. I'm liking this. That was a very timely thought scour, wasn't it?
It was very timely. Oh, and it gave him another Gurmag Angler, which is going to give him some insulation against edicts if Telemokos happens to draw another one.
But we will see the mono black control deck very efficiently answer both of these zombie fishes.
Oubliette's going to get rid of one.
Wait.
It's not the tension sphere.
Yeah. So I thought he had another Chainer's Edict in hand.
Ah.
This is not good.
Zombie fish going to keep crashing in.
We need to find an answer.
Looks like we found another Oubliette, maybe?
Yeah, that should do it. No, it looks like we're going with Rager here. Now, this might be easily disrupted, but do you think we could see... oh, Kabosh.
There's the witches.
Well, he has double disfigure. Could we see a block with either witches or Rager and then a double disfigure on the angler?
More than likely. That's what I would do if I was in Telemokos' spot.
But Dave has found... Yeah. Yeah, it looks like he's setting up another angler. This deck is very good at getting that graveyard filled. Look at that. It went through like mental note into
with the brainstorm or with the mental note and thought scour alongside the evolving wilds. It definitely makes brainstorm better than I gave it credit for. I still think in general it's pretty poor in the Pauper format, but in this deck it looks great.
Yeah, it seems like it has like barely enough support for it, right? You've got the playset of scours, and is that a playset of note as well, or just a 3 of? Let me take a peek at Dave's list. Right, so he's got 4 scours, 3 notes.
Looks like he even found some more counter spells. I would probably double block this. I would have double blocked, that way only 1 disfigure needed to resolve. Oh no, he just chumped. Wow. Oh, and there's a Delver and another Gurmag Angler. This is not looking good.
And he's still holding the counter spell behind it.
Yeah.
This is probably game. Wow, Dave is making this blue-black delve or delver, whichever you want to call it. It almost feels like the theme of the deck is about delve, than more so than the delver.
I mean, there's only 4 delvers, but 6 delve spells.
Right, and then you also have things like the demise, although obviously not wonderful in this match. But you know, it seems as though that's more so what the deck is about, built around is these delve spells.
Gurmag Angler is real big. That's the theme of this evening so far.
Did Dave literally play? How many fish did he play this game? 3. Yeah, that's rough.
He currently has 17 cards exiled.
It's impressive. I mean, he literally was. He was pumping threats. Pumping many threats.
He cast all of those 1-mana cantrips, you know, churning through them, spinning their wheels, as you said. But he was sculpting his hand and then setting up this flurry of Gurmag Anglers.
You know, this might be one of the best Gurmag Angler decks I've seen as of late. As far as
I think it's definitely the best Angler deck in the format.
It's pretty terrifying. I'm impressed. I'm pleasantly surprised. I thought this maybe was going to go to Telemokos, but he's really thinking here. What do you think? I mean, it looks like Dave is representing another counterspell, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think he's deciding if he wants to cast the Grey Merchant that's in his hand and try and gain some life and chump for a turn, or utilize those disfigures to try and take out one of the Gurmag Anglers.
I could see that. I mean, I think he just has to.
If this Delver flips, it's just all over. And it did. And he reveals another copy of Counterspell that he had put back with Brainstorm.
Yep. This is just brutal.
Angler does not die to Victim of Night because it's a zombie. Somebody just pointed that out in chat. That is absolute gas. Zambi Fish. Well, there's an Edict. Witches is going to hit that Gurmag Angler. But it's not going to be enough. We'll just do 1 damage back to Telemokos. Here come a flurry of Disfigures. He'll counter the second one. The third one will kill it. And then he's going to die.
Correct. Maybe his hope is that the counterspell isn't actually there. Oh, he's not going to get to kill the zombie fish if he leads on the first Disfigure on the Delver. So
I let that resolve. And then you just counter this one.
Yeah.
And that is going to be all she wrote.
Dave really did kind of have it all that game, it seemed.
He did, but he saw a lot more cards than Telemokos did. In fact, you can see there he is 11 cards deeper into his deck than his opponent.
It's huge.
And his opponent cast Silent Blood twice. So Davesea is going to take game 1 here on blue-black Delver against mono-black. Let's go ahead and take a look at Dave's deck list. Well, his sideboard, and see what we've got going on. So Dave has 1 Chainer's Edict, 1 Doomblade, 2 Dispel, an Echoing Truth, an Essence Scatter, an Evankar's Justice, 1 Nil Spellbomb, 2 Shrivel, 3 Stormbound Geists, and 2 copies of Boomerang. How do you think he's going to sideboard?
I like these Stormbound Geists. Perhaps the Essence Scatter. Some of these creatures you just don't want to have happen at all. I mean, especially the Grey Merchant. So I could see maybe that Essence Scatter, the Geists. How do you feel about that 1 of Justice? We saw that be very effective for Scalding Hot Soup earlier in the evening in his Teachings deck. How does that translate into this Delver deck that's a little bit lighter on lands?
Well, and by a little bit lighter, you mean the difference between like 19 and 25?
Just a little bit lighter.
That's a pretty big difference. I think that the Justice is just primarily there as another way to do 2 damage to all the creatures.
Probably not bought back all that much.
Yeah.
Do you like the Chainer's Edict?
Probably. I think it's probably better than Agony Warp, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, the Agony Warp seems...
Also, like the Demises are pretty poor too.
Those have to go. I mean, those definitely come out, so that's easy. Those. What else comes out in this matchup, though? Probably some Warps.
Yeah, I mean, I just cut all the Warps and all that. Ghastly Demise, and that gives you 5 cards.
So it gives you 3 Geists and then 2 more flex spots, like maybe the Scattered, either Justice or probably the Edict. He probably won't bring in the Justice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and take a look at Telemokos' sideboard and see how we think he's going to change things up here. So we've got a Bajuka Bog, a Pestilence, 3 copies of Choking Sands, a Font of Return, a Nausea, 2 Relic, a Shrivel, and 3 Wrench Mine. How do you think he's going to side?
I think we're going to see the Delver deck does like to hold cards. So unlike where earlier we had the Elves mono black control versus Elves, we both agreed that the Wrench Mine was not effective. I think that some number of Wrench Mines could be fine. Are we able to cut the Victim of Night because it doesn't line up very well against the zombie fishes we just discussed, and for that matter also the it does hit Scavenger. That is a Bird Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would you run it just to hit Delvers and Scavengers and Geist? It only gets half the Geist. He does not have a good answer for these Geists outside of maybe bringing in the Relics. That seems very poor.
Yeah,
I don't like a lot of his sideboard options. I mean, maybe Font of Return. I mean, Wrench Mines. Like, what do you even switch out then, Chris?
I mean, I think that the Witches are extremely poor. So like, I think you just like cut the Witches for just stuff like maybe Choking Sands, try and choke him on mana because it only has 19. Maybe Relic.
This is true.
But it looks like our players are ready for us. So let's go ahead and jump back to the match. For those of you who are just now joining us, I'm Chris Van Meter here with Sean Abrams, Bruce by the Magic Guy. And we're in round 3 of our cast tonight. We have Davesea, who's on the top on blue-black Delver, who is currently up a game. He's playing against Telemokos on the bottom, who is on mono-black.
So it looks like we had a mulligan for Dave this time.
Yeah, it's like Dave mulligan to 6. Telemokos is going to keep his starting 7. Got a Baron Moore, going to pass back. Dave does have an
Moore is
island.
great.
It's just going to ship. Yeah, the card is awesome.
Oh no, the mismatching Baron Moore. Telemokos.
Even better.
Oh,
He is on point with his cards tonight.
I think he's just doing it to spite me and to give you something to talk about, Chris.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
The white text Baron Moore next to the black text Baron Moore. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why not? They all tap for black.
This is true. But no, Moore is great because in the early stages... Huh?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying in the early stages, it gives you that land drop, and then in the late stages, you cycle it very efficiently. And the mono black deck doesn't have all that many turn one plays outside of the disfigures, if I'm not mistaken. So Moore feels great. And the Bajuka Bogs, you could say the same thing. It's fine that they're tap lands because as long as they're either the first land you play or one of the last lands you play, well, you wouldn't play Moore, you'd probably cycle it. They feel fine.
Yeah, I mean, it just gives you something that you can get out of your lands. It's just better than just a basic swamp at that point.
I agree with that. And, another deck that you see a lot of these cycle lands in is the Kadaltha Jeskai deck. You usually see some number of cycle lands in that list as well. Coincidentally, though, Romario did not do so hot with his deck. Now, why may that have been the case? Do you know what went down with Romario? Do you remember?
The Kadaltha Jeskai deck?
Kadaltha Jeskai.
I think that we only had him on camera once, and he just got demolished.
He missed his first night of playing the deck, actually.
Oh, wow. So was there another Jeskai deck? I remember seeing a Jeskai deck.
Besides Romario?
Yeah.
I just know that his first 3 rounds were mucked because he was on vacation with his family and couldn't make the first night that we streamed, or he thought he was in the other group or something. So the communication went wrong somewhere. I can't think of another Jeskai deck. I'm going to look around, though. I don't think so. You know exactly what deck I'm referring to, though, right?
Yes, I know what the Kadaltha Jeskai is.
It's a pretty brilliant deck, very value-oriented. A lot of cool things going on in it. It's indeed a Firebolt deck. Glad that we're seeing that reprinted because I kind of wanted to play this, but I was like, these Firebolts are too expensive. I'll play something else,
Well, now you don't have an excuse.
This is true. And new art and flavor as well.
Right,
pretty
so
psyched about Eternal. Oh, go ahead, friend.
Well, so you're just like constantly ragging on Telemokos for having mismatched cards.
Just destroying him because he knows better.
Did you see these Ponders that Davesea is playing?
The mismatched Ponders?
Yeah.
But Ponder is such a wonderful spell. I can't really, even if it's okay. You're right. I'm being biased. I'm being biased. You're right. Those are mismatched Ponders. I'll have to talk to Dave after this.
Oh, it's perfect.
Give him a piece of your mind.
We should actually just let Nathaniel know that from now on, if anybody ever asks for more than one copy of a card,
they have to match.
They do have to match.
They must match, or he can't give them to them because that's how that works.
So Telemokos is getting a lot of value off his cards. 2 Ragers. He's got a Sign in Blood. Drawn a bunch of extra cards. Dave's just kind of been spinning his wheels here. He needs to get some threats. As I say that, we see a Gurmag Angler and a Delver of Secrets, but he needs to try and protect them if he's going to close this out. So he's currently up a game. We are in game 2. If he can finish this game out and take the win, he'll put himself in a good shot next round to have a potential win again.
Yes. I mean, let me say this. Okay. So the Cardhoarder streamers have access to, cards from Cardhoarder. So is it really that difficult for them to have matching cards, Chris? Is it?
Well, that's what I'm saying is I think that they just do it on purpose. Like Nathaniel does it on purpose.
To tilt me? Oh, Nathaniel does it. He's in cahoots
everyone.
with.
Why not?
No, to show the world that being, that mismatching is beautiful, right? He's making a statement.
I mean, they're just magic cards. They all do the same, right?
Sure. Yes. Okay. That's true.
Well, this Gurmag Angler is still alive. Chittering
Yeah,
Rats is aiming to try and slow Davesea down a little bit. Little Bajuka Bog is going to get rid of that Delver of Secrets. But this Gurmag Angler can start crashing in.
and maybe the Bajuka Bog too late to the battlefield before the Angler happened.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Could have cut off several more cards if he'd drawn it earlier.
We got a Chainer's Edict crashing with the Angler. Too bad that wasn't an instant speed removal spell, because I'm fairly certain that if he would have just attacked into those 3 Ragers, we might have seen a triple block get blown out.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's a possibility. Oh, I agree with you, Windy Chinaman. Ooh, the oubliette. Ah, wonderful. A timely counterspell.
Counterspell's going to stop the oubliette, but there's another one in the wings. It's going to come down, take care of that Gurmag Angler. Telemokos is in the driver's seat here. Dave only has 1 card in hand. What do you think has to happen here for Dave to turn this around?
We need to either see another Angler or we need to see back-to-back removal for these Ragers. Actually, even the Scavenger would be fine. Scavenger's a 3/3 trumps the Ragers.
Yeah. Brainstorm is a good start. Whenever I'm playing Legacy and behind, Brainstorm is always step 1 to try and come back into a game.
Yep.
I don't think Delver's going to do it, though.
No, I mean, even if Flip Delver doesn't do a good job blocking. And well, if we flip this Delver immediately, we can put...
Yeah, if we can flip the Delver and then remove one of the Ragers, it gives us a lot of time. Unfortunately, there are 2 Chainer's Edicts in Telemokos' graveyard, and he has 7 mana available.
Yes, and this is why it's kind of gross. And you mentioned this at the very beginning of the stream, that Chainer's is... Ooh, we're going to lead out the Wrench Mine to get the counterspell. I like that. Although the Flashback Edict probably would have given us the same result. Oh, wow. That's probably a game right there, Chris.
I need to unmute my mic there. I've just been talking. I muted it earlier so I could cough. Telemokos is going to take that match, or take the game from Davesea, going to force it into a game 3. Blue-Black Delver against Mono-Black. While our players are quickly sideboarding here for the last game, let's go ahead and take a quick look and chat about something that's near and dear to your heart, these awesome tokens that you can find at Isle of Cards.
Yes.
So we do have some pictures here that we're going to go ahead and put up on the screen. But there are some really awesome tokens. One of an artist that Nathaniel works with, he had him commissioned to make the tokens for us, and they are absolutely beautiful. I personally think that the zombie token looks the best, but they're all just very good quality.
I mean, if you're playing the new Kalidas and you want to bring some bling to the table, those zombies are great. I think they offer these in a couple different options. You can get a bunch of one type. You can get singles of each type, and there's a variety pack. Also, anytime you do an order with their paper store Isle of Cards, Chris, I do believe you get 2 random tokens. I believe that I got some freebies when I ordered.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Very cool.
So again, you guys can find these on isleofcards.com. There is a link to that website on the Cardhoarder homepage. It is the physical arm of Cardhoarder, so if you need to buy or sell any physical Magic cards and not just digital ones, you can do that on isleofcards.com. Looks like our players are ready for us, so let's go ahead and hop back to the match.
Sounds like a plan. I'll link that in chat, actually, so they can get to it more easily.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
For those of you just popping in, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Chris Van Meter here with Sean Abrams, and we're going to Game 3 between Davesea on the top, who has Blue-Black Delver, playing as telemokos on the bottom, who is on mono black. Both players are tied up 1-1, and coming into this round, it looks like telemokos was at 3-2, and Davesea is at 2-3. So if Davesea wins this match, he has a very outside shot at potentially making the top 4. If telemokos wins this match, then he could potentially be put into a win-and-in situation next turn. So it looks like we've got that Relic of Progenitus for telemokos. That's going to do some big work to Dave's graveyard. Going to shut off those Gurmag Anglers. I can't imagine he sided any of them out.
No. I mean, they're so pivotal to the deck, and you need all of your threats when it comes to facing these very removal-heavy decks like Teachings or Mono Black Control. I very much like the Relic coming in here, Chris.
So do I. Dave is going to use a counter spell on Sign in Blood just to try and cut telemokos off of resources. He does have another one to try and refill his hand, but at this point, he's pretty much in the driver's seat. He's just drawing more cards, making his land drops, has a way to interact with his opponent with Relic of Progenitus. Eventually, he just needs to land a couple of threats and try and win the game that way.
Yeah, I mean, we saw like Dave just kind of have it all that first game, but after sideboard, this mono black control deck looks like it can kind of re-situate itself in this matchup and just do a much better job killing off all of Dave's threats, even with that plethora. And you're right, it is a lot of counter magic, hard counters. Just able to play through it, really.
Now, this is interesting. Dave is able to use a Thought Scour and a Mental Note just to kind of overload that Relic of Progenitus. Because even if he were to tap it to exile one card, he still could delve out an early Gurmag Angler. So he was just able to force him to cash it in now, and that's going to free up his graveyard over the next few turns. 2 copies of Delver are going to be dispatched by a Disfigure and a Chainer's Edict. Telemokos does have 5 cards in hand compared to Davesea's 4. He's going to go up to 5 on his draw step, but now this is where the game gets interesting. We need to see what kind of threats he can land, and that Stormbound Geist is going to be real good.
It's huge, actually. I really like these Stormbound Geists. We see them in the Kiln Fiend sideboards. We're also seeing it in Dave's sideboard. I think these decks that can pull off that blue, it makes for a really nice sideboard threat, very resilient due to that Undying.
Yeah, it's
what do you
just
think
very
about
good.
Undying as a mechanic, Chris?
I think it's very powerful, like especially the
It's the opposite of Persist.
Yes.
Persist was already really good.
Yeah, now they get +1/+1 instead of -1/-1.
I know. Why did they think that was a good idea?
The creatures are worse, right? Like the creatures that it's on are worse. Like if this thing had Persist, it'd be a 3/3 instead of a 2/2.
Okay, so it's the reverse. I understand. Yeah.
Either way, definitely difficult for an attrition style deck to handle it. This mono black deck just wants to 1-for-1 all of the threats. Then this Stormbound Geist is going to eat up 2 cards from Telemokos if he wants to get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe what we'll see, though, is Telemokos flex the other side of this deck archetype.
Well, he also could just use an Oubliette to exile it.
True. Yeah, Oubliette does a good job handling the Geist, doesn't it? That's true. It's probably the only piece of removal that lines up 1-for-1 against Geist, isn't it?
Yeah. Outside of Magma Spray, yeah.
Well, okay, I'm just trying to think of a true.
In this deck, yes.
Well, what if he still had the Relic? We could use a removal spell, and if the graveyard was empty in response to the Undying trigger, activate Relic. But that's going to be hard to do.
Yeah.
But that will be hard to set up, is the thing.
Now, Telemokos has resolved 2 Sign in Blood, so he is down already to 12 from the card drawing spells and this Stormbound Geist attacking.
Yeah. Somebody doesn't appreciate that Dave has brought in the Avangar's Justice out of the sideboard.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be very good. I am a little surprised to see that he brought it in. We got a Zombie Fish for Telemokos. Thinking this is likely going to take a Deprive.
Yeah. Would it have been greedy there to gush into deprive? I think so, because you'd be on like no mana, right?
Then you'd have 0 lands in play.
I mean, lands, Chris, are overrated actually.
Yeah.
If you're like me, you make all your mana with Moxen and Black Lotus. You know,
Fair.
that's the gentleman's way.
I actually don't like gushing unless I can make sure that I have blue available after I gush, so that I can use the counter spells that I draw into.
That's reasonable. Yeah, I mean, the gush is just a 2 of in Dave's list. It's funny, I talked with him on actually if you guys want to listen to it on the podcast, we talked briefly about the Pauper tournament, and I actually interviewed Dave, even though they were trying to interview me, Chris. I interviewed Dave and asked him why, even though he's, just like you and I, Cardhoarder partner, team member, why he decided to omit any number of days from this Delver deck. And you want to know what he said?
What did he say?
He just forgot to get some.
Really?
Yeah, he said in retrospect, I probably should have been playing at least like 2 or more days, just so people have to like at least play around it. It's nice to have like even just a miser's copy. Usually, a lot of Delver lists they try to buy as many as they can, because that's the thing. Like for Pauper, Delver decks, right? It's like that's the fear that they actually have the days, because they're relatively expensive on Magic Online. So a lot of players omit dazes or don't have any dazes. But in this tournament setting, Chris, people knowing Dave's deck list, if he even had just 1 daze, he could strike fear to their hearts, at least make them play around it.
That is a possibility. In the meantime, though, where Davesea had a commanding hold on this game with his creatures, it's kind of turned around now. Oubliette was able to take out that Stormbound Geist. Telemokos was able to land a Gurmag Angler, and then Bujukuba got rid of his fully packed graveyard to stop any further shenanigans from Delve. Now we're just kind of even footing, playing a little draw-go action, and even something like a Grey Merchant could be really good here, considering there's already some black pips on the battlefield.
Indeed. And you were right. The Oubliette just 1-for-1ing that Stormbound was fantastic. A very timely draw for Telemokos.
So Chittering Rats is going to put a card from Dave's hand on top of his deck. Phyrexian Rager is going to draw a card and lose a life down to 7, but he's in firm control of this game. I think we're going to see floating 2 blue and a gush. We've got to get some action going. That Evankar's Justice, though, can clean these creatures up. However, Father Return is basically going to be a draw 3 at that point.
Yes. Ooh, another Geist. Yeah, this font looks great. We've seen it a couple times during the tournament from these mono block decks. They both run 1 in the sideboard. I've liked it every time I've seen it. So much value.
Ooh, this is Grey Merchant, 1 of 2 the Telemokos currently has. So a Deprive is going to take care of this first one. But there is one more Grey Merchant waiting in the wings.
Yeah, I wonder why Dave decided to pick up the island instead of the Tap Swamp. I guess it doesn't matter at this point. It's just that he has more than 1 gush in the list. That's a very minor thing. I'm sure it won't affect the play. And maybe that's another reason to not run all that many dazes in these blue-black Delve lists. I mean, you don't have Underground Seas, So Gush and Daze are both more awkward for this deck. In fact, I would say very hard to support the Gush, wouldn't you say?
Yes, but it looks like we might actually just end this game now. Chittering Rats and Rager are going to crash in, bringing down to 7, and another Grey Merchant just sitting in his hand is going to come down and steal this game.
Perhaps.
Oh, he does have a gush.
Will we gush into the gush? Did we find it?
We did. We found it.
That's a bit of an upset.
Well, so the game
is
not over here, and Font of Return can just rebuy those Grey Merchants. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's probably over. I can't see. Telemokos has a lot of inevitability here. I think we're gonna get a game 3.
We saw this in week 1.
Yep.
Where like Gray Merchant get countered, font of return, give back the Gray Merchants.
Yeah, it seems fantastic. Poor Dave though gets Telemokos just so low.
Yeah, so close.
Yeah, font of return is great. It's not even random, it's target.
Yeah, just draw 3. Here comes Gray Merchant.
All right, do you have Force of Will?
This is just going to be the full 7 here. Don't even need to attack. All right, well, Telemokos is going to win the match. That's going to bring Telemokos to 4-2. So he's going to put himself in the potential to have a win in the next round. Let's see if we have a backup feature match.